Good day, beautiful people, and welcome back to Life Treasures and Golden Moments. This is Natalie Silva. I'd like to wish you all a happy new year, and I hope everything's going well for you all in the new year and things are looking bright. And I bet a lot of you have made plans and goals for the new year, starting out fresh and everything. So today I was thinking about sharing some stories with you from a wonderful author and speaker called Squire Rushnell. He wrote a book many years ago called When God Winks at You. And it was in one of my collections. And I thought it would be fun to share with you today. I had a friend that I gave this book to, and they've been reading it, and they raved on and on about it. And I'd like to share today's first chapter when it's called God Winks at Personal. I also have a friend, she calls God Winks God Bricks. Every once in a while she gets hit in the head to remind her to do something or wake up. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So I'm hoping that you enjoy this story today. I know you will. It's a wonderful, wonderful book that he's written and gives you food for thought. And I'm sure it's still in print that you could get it if you want to read it at a later time. So I'm going to read from chapter 1 called God Winks at Personal. You had another one of those days. Everything seems uncertain. You think, wouldn't it be great to wake up one morning and have everything certain? Certain in love, certain about your job, certain about your future? Who could you talk to about this? Bigger question, who'd listen? Tentatively, your eyes drift skyward. Hello? Are you there, God? Then your mind quickly assesses the immensity of your request. You want God to listen to you right now? How ridiculous. There are 6 billion people on this planet. What if they're all calling God at the same time? You slump deeper into the dumps. Then something happens. A silly little thing. Someone you just thought about for the first time in years telephones out of the blue. A silly coincidence? So silly you shrug it off. Or a prayer that you didn't really expect to be answered was. Immediately, your left brain repeats something you once heard. There's a mathematical explanation for everything. But you say, maybe it's not just a coincidence, a chance. Maybe God is communicating with you. Yes, directly to you. You shake your head. Nah, couldn't be. But what if God is communicating with you in a nonverbal way, making a little miracle happen right in front of you? After all, God doesn't speak to people in human voices. He's God. He'd do something no one else could do, just to show you it's Him. If so, that would mean He is listening, right? He has heard you. What if through this odd little coincidence or answered prayer, He's sending you, out of all those billions of people, a direct personal message of reassurance. To stop worrying, to keep faith that everything will be all right. This, my dear, is the essence of what this book is about. Every time you receive what some call a coincidence or an answered prayer, it's a direct and personal message of reassurance from God to you, and what is called a God wink. It's similar to when you were a kid sitting at the dining room table. You looked up and saw someone you loved looking back, Mom or Dad or Granddad. They gave you a little wink. You had a nice feeling from that small, silent communication. What did it mean? Probably, hey kid, I'm thinking about you right at this moment. I'm proud of you. Everything is going to be all right. That's what a God wink is. Every so-called coincidence or answered prayer is God's way of giving you His small, silent communication. A little wink saying, hey kid, I'm thinking of you right now. It's a clear message of reassurance that no matter how uncertain your life seems at the moment, He will help move you toward certainty. And it's a sign that you're never alone. In fact, you're always on His GPS, a global positioning system that the author likes to call God's positioning system. In this book that he's written, he aims to show that every God wink that happens in your life is a very personal experience. He's collected one compelling story after another to convince you that you will never again have to wonder where you rank among those 6 billion others in the world, like those in the stories that follow. The instant you receive a God wink, you'll know it. You are right there at the top, when it's crystal clear. In Anaheim, California, Mavis Jackson drove past the Crystal Cathedral. For 20 years she said the same thing. Someday I'm going to go there. On Sunday morning she did, putting on her best outfit. She simply decided today is the day. Getting there early, Mavis took a seat in the middle and watched the huge 3,000-seat megachurch filled with people. She was awed as the majestic voices of the choir seemed to enrich and encircle her. She marveled at the manner in which a huge section of the glass ceiling slid open at the start of the service, as to invite even the birds to worship. At the end of the service, Mavis stood up and waited for the aisle to clear. Trying not to sound too excited, she said to the young lady who'd been next to her, "I'm so glad I came today. Wasn't it wonderful?" The young woman nodded. "Are you from here?" asked Mavis. "Oh, no, I'm from the Midwest," said the young woman, adding, "I'm actually here on a mission to find my birth mother." There was a pause. "I know how you must feel," said Mavis. "A long time ago, I had to give up a little girl for adoption. I didn't want to, but—" Another pause. The young woman looked deeply into Mavis's eyes. "Do you remember her birthday?" "Oh, yes," said Mavis cautiously. "October the 30th. "Well, that's my birthday," gasped the young woman. "That's right, a remarkable coincidence. A God wink had reunited a long-lost mother and daughter. What are the odds of that?" They sat down. The young woman introduced herself as Cheryl Wallace. Cheryl explained that for years she had been haunted by the lingering uncertainty of not knowing who her birth mother was, and more important, why her mother had given her up. In her small Midwest town, everyone was discouraging. "You're looking for a needle in a haystack," counseled the town clerk. "There's no trace of her," said others. Eventually, a suggestion from someone who thought she once heard that Cheryl's birth mother had moved to Orange County, California, led her to this time and place. Even on her most optimistic days, Cheryl never could have forecast such a remarkable outcome, that such uncertainty would end with such certainty in a manner that only God could have made happen. And when they confirmed that their wonderful miracle was true, that they were long-lost mother and daughter, they knew that Mother's Day would never be the same again. What can you learn from Mavis and Cheryl's stories? That a mighty force is out there, bigger than all of us, watching over us, directing our lives. And when we step out in faith, as demonstrated by Cheryl, in looking for her mother, we can receive the desires of our heart. We can turn uncertainty into certainty. I wonder if you, in your past, if you were challenged to step out in faith, perhaps at an early age, and as a result, you were given a firm affirmation that your faith would be rewarded. If so, perhaps your experience parallels the one that follows. This is called Tim's Amazing Story. When you grow up in a place like Chagrin Falls, Ohio, says world-famous comedian Tim Conway, it's a religious experience in itself. Everyone in town cares for you, watches out for you. Tim Conway's hometown personified Norman Rockwell's normalcy. Between Sunday services at the community's two churches, the town folk, like a huge family, involved themselves in each other's lives. Doctors left home each morning to mend hurts, mechanics to fix people's cars, and teachers to grow the minds of children, while the little girls hopscotch on chalked-edged sidewalks, and the boys balanced bamboo fishing poles as they made their way to the riverbank. At the age of 12, Tim had a paper route, tasted chewing gum from the bottom of a chair, and wished he could own a Red Ryder BB gun. God was a large, mysterious presence in the boy's life. Even though he had no proof that God had existed, Everybody said he did, and there was no reason to doubt them. Also looking large in the mind of the Chagrin Falls boy was the annual Blossom Festival, highlighted by the biggest parade of the year and the arrival of the carnival. Down by the river, a magical mini-village sprang up overnight. A giant Ferris wheel stretched higher than the church tower. The repetitive sound of the merry-go-round filled the air, and the fragrance of popcorn and axle grease reached his nostrils. 50 cents jangled in Tim's pocket as he made his way to the Midway after Saturday chores. He liked the feel of turning the dimes in his pocket. After drinking a Coke and buying a ticket for the Ferris wheel, he carefully conducted a survey of the game booths, ascertaining which might secure him the best prize. Then he saw it, a white plastic crucifix that glowed in the dark, hanging on a green ribbon. For some unknown reason, its lure was powerful. A man with long hair and dirty fingernails announced that for a mere 10 cents, Tim could surely win a nice prize, maybe even the one he was eyeing. Grasping the fishing pole, Tim waved the line and hook above the small pool of water, where 60 plastic ducks bobbled, some designating a prize, but only one entitling its captor to the crucifix that glowed in the dark. First dime, first try, nothing. Second dime, second try, he hooked a plastic duck, but only a cheap charm was his reward. The third time, which was the last try, one more worthless item. With each failure, the degree of difficulty became more apparent, and the crucifix more desirable, but he was out of money. Tim began walking back home, thinking about how good that cross would have looked glowing in the dark in his room at night. Slumping head down, pondering his plight, Tim wished he could have had it. Darn it. The instant he spotted the treasure, a shiny dime laying on the sidewalk, reaching down in what retrospectively seemed like slow motion, Tim lifted the dime and broke into a trot back to the Midway. Again he surveyed the situation. One chance in 60 to rescue that glow-in-the-dark crucifix from those murky waters. With his hand in his pocket, he rolled the dime in his fingers just to be sure it was still there. But this was too big a moment. This required big attention. He left the Midway. Again, the trunk of a large maple tree, Tim placed his head on his arm and decided to test the mysterious power of God. Lord, he hesitated, unsure of the proper words to speak to the Almighty. I would really like that white cross, the one on the green ribbon that glows in the dark. Tim turned from the tree and walked firmly to the carnival booth. Now familiar with him, the man with the long hair and dirty fingernails looked down at Tim, slightly raised an eyebrow, and stretched out his grimy palm. The dime emerged from Tim's pocket and was quickly parted from him. The man handed him the pole. Tim furrowed his brow, pursed his lips, just enough for the tip of his tongue to stick out, steadied the pole above the water, and with the concentration of a major league pitcher, he dipped the hook and snatched the number 1 duck from the odds of impossible, awarding him the glow-in-the-dark white crucifix on a green ribbon. I kept the cross under my pillow until I went to college, said Tim. I still have it. Through many subsequent years, each containing chapters of uncertainty, from college exams to casting calls, Tim Conway was always bolstered by the assurance he gained that day, next to a maple tree at the carnival in Chagrin Falls, a small trinket with its enduring confirmation that he had personal answer to his prayer. A God wink he'll never forget. How about you? Does it seem like it did to Tim Conway that God is a mysterious, intangible entity? People say he exists, but you're not quite sure. Why don't you test him? Try putting your total trust in his existence, as Tim did, and just see if you too receive a direct personal communication by way of a wink. It's been wonderful being here with you today. And I hope that you'll tune back in next time, and we will share some more stories from this book that Mr. Reschnell has written, if you enjoyed it. And until then, take care and God bless. Looking forward to being with you next time. This is Natalie Silva.